The empire is gone. He knows it. It is April 28, 1945. Berlin is burning. Soviet shells are landing blocks away from where he stands. The 1,000-year Reich, the empire he built on fear, blood, and the belief that he was history's chosen instrument, is collapsing in real time around him. And Adolf Hitler is 50 feet underground. Not commanding, not fighting, not fleeing, waiting. What goes through the mind of a man who reshaped the world through sheer force of will, when that will finally runs out? What does a dictator think about in the last hours before the end? Does he feel regret, rage, fear, or does he feel nothing at all? This is the story of Adolf Hitler's final 48 hours. What he said, what he did, what he believed, and what it tells us about the darkest corners of the human mind. To understand Hitler's final hours, you need to understand the world he was living in. Not the real world, but the one inside his head. The Führer bunker sat 50 feet beneath the Reich Chancellery Garden in Berlin. 18 rooms, concrete walls 4 meters thick, the constant hum of ventilation systems. No natural light, no windows, no connection to the world above except through telephone lines, and the reports of men too afraid to tell him the truth. Hitler had been living here since January. 3 months underground. 3 months of increasingly desperate situation reports. 3 months of moving phantom armies across maps. Divisions that no longer existed. Generals who were already dead. Relief forces that were never coming. The people around him had learned one survival skill above all others. Tell him what he wants to hear. And so Hitler existed in a bubble. A constructed reality, not unlike the one Stalin built for the Soviet people. Except this one existed only for an audience of one. And by April 1945, even that bubble was beginning to crack. April 28th begins with a betrayal. Or at least, that is how Hitler sees it. Word reaches the bunker that Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS, Hitler's most loyal enforcer, the architect of the Holocaust, has been secretly negotiating with the Western allies behind Hitler's back, attempting to broker a surrender. Hitler's reaction is volcanic. To those present in the bunker that night, witnesses describe a man completely consumed by rage. Not the cold, calculated rage of a political operator, but something rawer, something almost animal. The rage of a man who has spent his entire life demanding absolute loyalty, and has just discovered that even loyalty has a breaking point. Himmler is stripped of all titles, expelled from the Nazi Party, condemned as a traitor. Orders are issued for his arrest. But here is what is so revealing about this moment. Hitler's fury is not about Germany. It is not about the millions of people dying in the streets above him. It is about him, about loyalty to him, about betrayal of him. Even at the very end, the world still begins and ends with Adolf Hitler. At midnight on April 28th, going into April 29th, Adolf Hitler gets married. Eva Braun had been his companion for over a decade, hidden from the public, kept secret from a nation that was told their Führer belonged entirely to Germany. She had come to the bunker voluntarily when she didn't have to. And now, in a small concrete room 50 feet underground, while Soviet artillery shook the ceiling above them, they exchanged vows. The ceremony lasted a few minutes. A small group of bunker staff attended. There was champagne. There were tears. Someone played music. And then Hitler retreated to his study and began dictating his last will and testament. What he wrote is perhaps the most chilling document of the entire war. Not because it shows remorse, not because it shows doubt, but because it shows absolutely neither. In his final written words to the world, Hitler blames the Jews for the war. He blames his generals for the defeat. He instructs his successors to continue the racial laws. He expresses no regret for the 60 million people dead across the globe. No acknowledgement of the 6 million murdered in his name. To the very last word, he believes he was right. April 29th, the last full day. Word arrives that Mussolini is dead, captured by Italian partisans, executed, and hung upside down from a lamp post in Milan for the public to see. Hitler receives this news quietly. Those present say he says almost nothing. But he had already decided. He would not be taken alive. He would not be paraded through the streets of Moscow. He would not be put on trial. He would not give the world the satisfaction of watching him answer for what he had done. That afternoon, he gathers his remaining staff. He shakes hands with each of them individually. Secretaries, aides, soldiers. Those who were there describe him as hollow, distant, as if he had already left. And this was simply the body going through motions. He takes his dog Blondie to a back room, tests a cyanide capsule on her to make sure it works. She dies immediately. He does not go back to see her. That evening he hosts one final dinner. He talks. He always talked. About the war. About his architects. About what Germany could have been. About how history would eventually understand him. History. Even now. Even here. He is thinking about how history will remember him. So what was actually happening inside his mind? Historians and psychologists have studied this question for 80 years. And while we can never know with certainty, the evidence points to something deeply important to understand. Hitler was not, in his final hours, a man wrestling with guilt. He was not a man confronting the horror of what he had done. He was not broken by conscience. He was a man whose entire psychological architecture had been built around one central belief: that he was right, that he had always been right, that the world had failed him, not the other way around. This is what makes him so important to understand. Not the evil, but the certainty, the absolute unshakable conviction that allowed a human being to order the murder of millions and sleep at night, to lose a world war and blame everyone but himself, to sit 50 feet underground while his nation burns and dictate a testament expressing no regret. The bunker in those final hours was not a place of reckoning. It was a place of confirmation. The world had betrayed him. The generals had failed him. The German people, he said this explicitly, had proven themselves unworthy of him. Not once, not in any document, not in any recorded conversation, did Adolf Hitler ever say he was wrong. April 30th, 1945. 3:30 in the afternoon. Soviet forces are less than 500 meters from the bunker entrance. The battle above has become block by block, building by building, room by room. Hitler and Eva Braun retreat to his private study. The door closes. Those waiting outside hear a single shot. When the door opens, Hitler is dead. A self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Eva Braun has taken cyanide beside him. Per his explicit instructions, their bodies are carried to the garden above, doused in petrol, and burned. The same man who had millions cremated in his death camps had arranged for his own cremation to prevent capture. 7 days later, Germany surrendered unconditionally. World War II in Europe was over. The Reich that was supposed to last 1,000 years had lasted 12. So what does the mind of Adolf Hitler in his final hours teach us? It teaches us that the most dangerous people in history are rarely the ones who know they are doing wrong and do it anyway. They are the ones who are absolutely certain they are doing right. Certainty without conscience is not strength. It is the most dangerous thing a human mind can produce. Hitler did not go to his death as a man defeated. He went as a man who believed history had failed to keep up with him. That is not a comfort. That is a warning. Because the certainty that drove him did not die in that bunker. Certainty like that never stays buried for long. Understanding it is the only defense we have against it. If this video meant something to you, share it with someone. Subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you in the next one.